Hi, I'm Chrissy Cordingley, and this is my show, The Flare Up Show, and this special episode is produced in partnership with Clarissa, Burt, and in the Limelight Media. I originally created this show to advocate for myself through chronic illness, but today it's grown into a wellness show that's listened to all over the world. I love to practice well-being for the whole being. So if you're ready to rise, thrive, and elevate your life, stay tuned, enjoy the show, and thanks for listening.
Here we go. Welcome to the Flare Up Show. This show is produced by the amazing Clarissa Burden in the Limelight Media. And today I have a real treat. I have Dr. Colonel Josh McConkey. He's an award-winning best-selling author and esteemed emergency physician with over 2 decades of clinical experience. He served as a professor at Duke University and maintains board certification in emergency medicine. With 22 years of military service, Dr. McConkey now commands the 459th Aeromedical Staging Squadron in the U.S. Air Force Reserves, demonstrating exceptional leadership and dedication. Beyond his military and medical achievements, he has been recognized for his contributions to education and community. He was honored in 2022 with induction into the Alliance Nebraska Public Schools Hall of Fame and received the 2023 Distinguished Alumni Award from Chadron State College. A devoted father of 3, his greatest passion lies in shaping future American leaders alongside his wife, Elsa, in Apex, North Carolina. Welcome, Dr. Josh. It's really great to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the very warm introduction.
Very excited to chat. So your book is really, really interesting, and I really love the concept behind it. So I'm excited for you to share about it. What is your book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear, about, and what inspired you to write it?
So this is my personal leadership ethos. 22, 23 years in medicine. I'm a military commander. I've served for over 23 years now. And that is my ethos. So, to understand what does it mean to be the weight behind the spear, kind of understanding what's the tip of the spear. So I've been very blessed. I've worked with some special operations individuals, throughout my career. And these are, people jumping out of airplanes, kicking in doors, taking down bin Laden. There was the Thai cave rescue in 2018 with the kids that were stranded, during the rainy season. These are the people you call, like the red bat phone. When you pick up that phone, this is who answers. I can't do those things. All right. I save lives. I don't take lives, but I can be the weight behind the spear. In any community, their best resource, it's people. So teachers, coaches, volunteers, families, and mentors. Like that is what sets communities apart and makes them special. And that's how we develop future leaders. So I want people to realize that those things matter. And I want them to be the weight behind the spears in their community. So that was the purpose of the book.
I love that. And was there a timing, or what inspired you to get this out in the world and start promoting it now?
So over the past few years, I'd seen so many changes, and I see it from both sides. So as an emergency physician, the mental health crisis that's really gripping like pretty much everywhere on the planet. But I see the depression, the anxiety, the suicide. That's what I deal with in my civilian jobs as an emergency physician. And as a military commander, I see some of the same cohort of individuals there, 18 to 25-year-old kids that I call them the COVID generation for Gen Z. They got shut out of schools, shut out of churches, and just isolated for 2 or 3 years that are really critical in those developmental ages. And as a result, just the inability to communicate, the lack of resiliency, it's very concerning. And I was concerned enough to write a book. So people need to know there's a problem. I think most people recognize that, but I've diagnosed it, and the book is the prescription. So it's been well received so far.
I love it. I love even the imagery of the spear. So there's the pointy part, which does the piercing, right? But you need the weight, which is really the community. We can talk about winning and losing and individualism all day long, but if you don't have the weight of many behind you, it's really counterproductive, isn't it? You're not going to get too far.
Yeah, that spear gets pretty worthless if you don't have a bunch of weight behind it. It's kind of a pointy stick. So, the more people that get involved, coaches, volunteers, mentors, I got to tell some stories about my teachers. The more I put time into writing it, I just reflected on what made me who I am. And it was, I'm very thankful.
You've been involved in quite a bit of significant change, and obviously you've been recognized for your work in the community. And you just mentioned you do have some stories, which, and I'm putting you on the spot right now, but
Hey, sure.
do you have a story maybe with teachers or something where it took a community, it took a movement, and there was the weight? Can you share that?
So, take some when I had a leadership lecture from Coach K, so the Duke basketball coach at Duke University,
Yes.
he had he basically gave this 2-hour lecture. He came into our residency program and just talked about accountability and ownership. And when I look back in my life, one of those kind of ultimate lessons in accountability for me was wrestling. So
Mm.
I had wrestling coaches growing up, Coach Hall, Coach Cullen, Coach Dobson. These individuals, wrestling is amazing. So it's just you and one other guy on a mat, period. So there's no excuses. Nobody dropped a pass. Nobody missed the basket. You literally were better than that individual or you were not. So you worked hard enough. And if you didn't, those are the results. There's nobody else to blame. So that ultimate accountability just falls on you. And, the more I reflected back on those, just some great stories and just great coaches.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. So how do you today, like how do you and your family put be the weight behind the spear into practical daily use? And how do we as society start to integrate it into our lives if we realize that's sort of the missing ingredient that we're finding as well?
Yeah, people need to know that what they do matters, and everyone has something different to give. You know, for me, like healthcare, medicine, military leadership, some people are great with animals. Like go to your animal shelter, volunteer. Those animals can be emotional support animals for someone else. And for most families, just doing something very simple we try to do in our house. I know it's very busy. There's so many practices and recitals and school, and I have work and military obligations, but just start simple. So with your family, and we try to do, just sit down and have family dinner. Just a few times a night, a week, as many nights as you can. Just take that time. You sit down, you have an actual family dinner and talk about your day. Ask your kids what went well, what didn't go well. Could you have made some different decisions to affect that outcome and had a better outcome? It helps them build confidence. It lets them know that they can still go out there and explore and do things, make a few mistakes, talk about them, learn from it. So those simple things right there, we try to do that. And we're as busy as every other family out there, but make that time. But let your kids know that they're important.
I love that. I love that. I know this is really funny. It's kind of terrible that I'm going to admit this live, but when my kids were little and things were very, very busy, um, they were watching some show on TV and they're like, can we get one of those? I'm like, one of what? They're like, those tables in the kitchen. Could we get one of those? Could we eat together one day? I was like, oh my goodness, that's what that table is. We're like, oh, I thought that's just where we stuck the mail when we got home after school. Like,
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so busy
yes.
when they're younger. So we went from 0 to 3 kids in 19 months. So we
Yes, you have
had a
twins and a yes.
yeah, a 1-year-old, and then found out we were pregnant, and literally at 6 weeks on an ultrasound, boom, there's two babies.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
oh no. And so it's a blur for the first 4 or 5 years, just trying to survive. I mean, we were exactly the same. I don't think we ever sat down and had dinner together at a table because I mean, you had 3 high chairs, and kids are throwing stuff everywhere. You're just managing chaos.
Yes. Hopefully I had a dog that could pick up the Cheerios and stuff, but that's what we did.
No, no, oh yeah, no. My wife
Yeah.
would have killed me if we would have got a dog. Like one more thing to take care of. Oh, I would have had a very severe beating.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Now, what I love about our kids, your kids are teenagers, mine are teenagers, and one very young adult. And now it's like games and puzzles and just things, activities that we can do together. That's
Yep.
that's the part. It's always different challenges at every age, but the cool thing about this age is sort of the relational bit because you can start to see where your generations start to match, right? Like their
Yeah.
personalities come out, which
Some
makes
card games, Monopoly is
yeah.
a family favorite here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just ways that you can connect. Ways that you can connect. Um, so you share a lot about unity in your writing, and right now we're definitely in an age of polarization. And I don't want to get too deep into the politics of that, but if we just focus on unity, what can leaders do to help facilitate unity? Because really leaders are supposed to demonstrate, model, teach people the skills. So how do we do that?
So just showing that we have so much more in common than what separates us. And if
Yes.
you use some great examples, so the space race, like the 1960s,
Yes.
man, nothing brought our country together better than a challenge. So John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, lays that challenge down. And after, I think he gave the speech in 1961, or there's one in 63, but in 1969, we landed man on the moon.
Hmm.
And that just unified an entire nation. It motivated some famous Canadians as well. If you follow
Yes.
Colonel Hadfield, was the
Yes.
International Space Station commander, but he watched that live and what became an astronaut before there were even Canadian astronauts, and commanded the International Space Station. Those things are just so important, and you realize that when you bring a country together like that, there's some just great stories about the average age in mission control during the 1960s that put man on the moon. Those teams was 27 years old. That was
Oh,
the average age in mission control. It's
wow.
mind-boggling. So just look at generations prior. We can expect some big things from these younger generations if we can equip them with the skills and leadership and accountability and some resiliency. I think we've lost a little bit over at least the last several years. Just the COVID debacle and kind of shutting things down for a while. We're seeing the results of that, and that's what I see in the emergency department as a commander. But we can focus on those things. We can all agree that we want our future generations to be successful. At the very least, if you're in business, I want to retire. Like I need to punch out. I'm going to coast off, go do some traveling. Who am I going to hand the keys over to?
Yes.
I want them to be successful. We all need them to be successful. Every community, every country. So let's focus on that. Let's develop our next generation of leaders so we can all retire. That's something everybody can get behind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just with so many world events and all these things, it's almost like I don't think we lack empathy. I think we're on overload almost. There's been so much bad news and crazy news and fighting and infighting that I think people are at the apathy stage of
Mm-hmm.
of being over like it's too painful sometimes to be empathetic. If I can share, I was really excited about a year ago. I was invited by a friend to be part of a Zoom talk with a squadron of Air Force in California on trauma-informed leadership, which
Okay.
wasn't about like it was about resilience, but also like the acknowledging that we are going to have little bits of ourselves that need to heal, and we're going to be working with people that are healing, and we can still be strong and full of leadership and powerful, but also through just pulling out a little bit of empathy for each other, which is what unites us. When we're empathetic, we find what's in common. And I was just so excited about that because sometimes if we're not familiar with the military, we may think, oh, it's just like fight, fight, but that's not. Military
Like
is
full
really
like Full
like,
Metal Jacket. I mean, it's not like
yeah,
that all the time.
yeah. But yeah, can you share what it's really like with other leaders in military service?
Yeah.
Like there's a real beautiful community and working together that comes out of the military that I don't think people realize that's
You
there
know,
if they're not
it's
involved with it.
it's every bit as involved, and they can more so, it being in a high level executive in a business like a CEO. So
Hmm.
I have 100 men and women under my command, and I have the war fighting medics. I have an aeromedical staging squadron. We take care of men and women who have been injured, combat injuries, other injuries, and plug them into the aeromedical evacuation. They get flown around all around the globe, for people to get injured. And then we
Hmm.
have critical care air transport. So like the mobile ICU team. And when you're a commander, not only are you like the executive level running this business, but you are 100% responsible for everything, absolutely everything. When one of your airmen has a really bad day, gets involved in a motor vehicle incident with some road rage and shoots somebody, it's still your fault.
Yeah.
And so you're really dealing with like high level emotions, and younger individuals, 18 to 25, they're still kind of growing up and learning about life and learning about leadership. And you're a mentor just as much and a teacher just as much as you are a commander. So it really takes that business leadership to the next level where I'm literally responsible for everything. And that's ultimate accountability and ownership. You want to be a captain of the ship, you got everything is your problem. And so you tend not to skirt issues, and you can't pass the buck. It has to be you. That's what
Hmm.
that's ultimate accountability.
I love that. Yeah, it's not an ivory tower by any means. You're a leader among the people, right? Like
Hmm.
you're one. There's a oneness to it, which I really, really appreciate. So that was a really great experience to see them coming together and learning how to handle the complexities of things that they had been through and
And,
how to
and
help the future
which base
leaders
were
go
you?
through. Yeah.
Yeah, which base were you at?
I don't know. I did it through Zoom. So it was,
It's just
I
over
can find you
Zoom.
his
Okay.
information later, but I forget his name now
Yeah,
because I'm not
I was
focused on
curious.
it with ADHD, but I can send you. Yeah. So it was with one of the trainers of the military. He works a lot with psychological safety and
Hmm.
that type of thing with the leaders. So yeah. So where he invited some outside speakers, non-military, to just share some personal experiences in leadership. So
Yeah, what a cool experience.
it was super. It just gave me a lot of hope because again, we see a lot of bad news or so the bad sides, but
Yeah,
there's a real we need to be pushing some of this good news and the good messages and the things that are like, no, no, like this is great. These are good things for us. There are good people everywhere. There are people helping. There are people that care. This isn't black
yes,
and white. Life is messy, and we have people doing everything they can to make it better. So we have to hang on to that humanity, I think. So
yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I ranted. I took your time. I
that's
apologize.
good. I like it. That's great.
Yes. So, would you like to share a little bit about your wife? I know that you sometimes
Oh,
speak about her and but she has a story as well, right? That sort of, there's a family story related into your book as well, right?
oh, yeah, my wife's story. So, just how important that family structure is. And my wife is Hispanic, so she's
Mhm.
has Cuban background. Both her parents immigrated from Cuba, boy, in
Yes.
like the 1950s. And the story, I titled it Black Beans and Rice. So my wife is an amazing cook. She's just a wonderful, happy, loving person. We're a good combination because when I met her, she was an elementary art school teacher. She's still a teacher. She's in the kids' school now. And I'm more of the grizzled combat veteran, emergency physician. I just see all kinds of nasty, terrible things. And I'm a little bit more grisly than she is. So we're a good
Mhm.
combination.
Yes.
She definitely keeps me grounded and more positive. And that chapter, seeing her parents' story of what they went through, her mom literally at the age of 7, they jumped into like a raft, and everyone had a ration of gas, to hopefully get to Florida. Her father was a physician. Things were so bad in Cuba that you throw your kids in a boat and hope you make it. And so they ran out of gas. They floated kind of aimlessly in the sea, were picked up by another ship and then transferred to like a Coast Guard vessel. And, just the craziest story where they were being shot at and were dodging like some mines on the like on the beach at like midnight. Like her grandfather literally had to pretend to be drunk because they had passed through a checkpoint, and he just pretended they were out like doing something. Somebody else was driving. They were just pretending they had been at a party. Just the whole
Um,
story is just amazing. And had it not been for those types of like heroic events and just going through all kinds of crazy things and lives being saved at sea, I would have never met my wife.
it's amazing. It's
It's
amazing.
wow. I was teary eyed as I was writing and just doing all the reading and the research because there's some news articles from a paper in Missouri. He was a physician, so he had to pay his dues. Hey, welcome to America. We need some docs in Missouri. Good luck. And they ship the Cuban family out near Missouri somewhere. And
Yes.
there were some stories in a newspaper from like the 1950s, and just reading through that, it was amazing.
I love that. I love the synergy between you two too, the way you described it, that symbiosis that where, it helps with your compassion fatigue
Yeah,
and then she gets to see the good side of leadership. That's really lovely. So it sounds
yeah. Elsa is very
like
special.
yes. Yes. And the world needs that too. I love that you share her story because we need more good love stories in the world too. So it's nice to hear things like that. Love like that is good. It's good.
Yeah,
Heals
thank
the
you.
world. I love it. I love it. Perfect. Where can people find your book and get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
They can get the book. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, most of it's available pretty much everywhere online. There's an ebook as well and an audiobook that came out on September 11th. So the audiobook is great. You can go to my website, weightbehindthespear.com, WEIGHT, like heavy, like a weight, weightbehindthespear.com.
I love it. Thank you. And before we sign off for today, what would you like to leave the audience with? Are there any last thoughts or words of encouragement or advice you'd like to give?
What they do every single day matters. Those impacts that you have on children and youth and your coworkers, there's so much out there. You never know what other people are going through. So a nice, talking about mental health as well. Just be there for people. You never know what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and everybody has a breaking point. So this life is a team sport. So just be part of something that matters. Be the weight behind the spear in your community.
I love that. Life is a team sport. I'm going to steal that. I'll give you credit though.
Thanks.